Hello, this is my first time. Is it working? I don't know. I guess I could just sit here. Oh, wait a minute. I see myself there on YouTube. I know we're live. Hello, everybody. And my name is Jonathan, and I am the founder of Bonsaibai. And I thought it would be nice to perhaps try out some live streaming things. And the first thing I want to do is do a little bit of watching some videos and see if we learn anything, and sort of share these together. And the first thing I found for us, which I think is quite good, by the way, this is very relaxed, right? Very relaxed. If you enjoy these sorts of things and you want to spend some time looking at videos with me, then this is the place. Let's see, can I get this on screen in a better way? How's that? Let's watch this. Mr. Titchmarsh, and he's got something good to say.
Of all the trees you can grow in a pot, a tub or a container, I think the Japanese maple is perhaps the most satisfactory. There are varieties that grow upright, others that make a low dome, but they will stay in a container for year after year after year. I once grew a Japanese maple in a large Chinese pot for 25 years. It was one of the lower growing dissectant types, but it was lovely. The key is to give it shelter and to never let it dry out completely in the pot. And every 2 or 3 years, take it out of that container, scrape away some compost and replace it with new. That way, you'll be happy for years.
That's a very good point. So what's the difference between somebody like a bonsai enthusiast and just a gardener, right, who grows trees in pots? I mean, it's a very similar thing. And he's mentioned a very good thing here, which is if you've got a constrained space, the tree is going to suffer eventually. So it needs nutrients and it needs to have space. So the standard way to do that might be to scrape a little bit away around the sides, make some gaps in the pot, right? So it's sort of about 4 or 5 inches, depending on the size of your pot, and just fill it with some new, and the roots will spread out into that area. You can fertilize once in a while as well to give it some vigor. But ultimately, if it's a largish pot, the less you have to do. Bonsai is all about making it into a smaller, and it has sort of proportions, an aesthetic set of proportions that people want to, that people think look aesthetically beautiful. So the smaller, the better, the ratio to the trunk and the height and so on. But you don't have to do that. We're not showing trees at bonsai shows. We're looking after them in our gardens. And for that, we should be able to do that in a slightly larger pot. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it like that. So as Mr. Titchmarsh says, you can have it in a pot for 25 years with no problem, as long as, he didn't mention feeding, but as long as you feed it from time to time and make sure that the soil and the compost within that pot is doing something for the tree.
Most people would love an apple tree in their garden, but oh, my garden's so small I can't fit one in. You can, in a large pot. Buy an apple tree on a dwarfing rootstock and it will only grow as tall as you do. Prune it carefully every winter and you'll find you won't be self-sufficient in apples, but you'll get half a dozen. And there's something terribly satisfying about growing an apple tree in a pot, enjoying that coconut ice pink blossom in spring, and then just half a dozen fruits that you can bite into with a bit of cheese. It's such a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely right. And the key takeaway for me is just growing it in a pot again. You can have a small garden as long as you've got some sun. There's no trees on the borders blocking all the sun. Be preferable south facing, right, in the UK. So we want to get the tree in a position we can get some good light. We might have to protect it from frost and some bad weather from time to time, but it's a worthwhile thing to do. In terms of apple trees and bonsai, I mean, we can go into the more perfect bonsai, up and the higher the quality. We might say the graft point on the apple tree doesn't look so nice and so on. But in terms of just enjoyment, enjoying an apple tree, having something in a pot, having the apples on that tree, that's something really to not, it's something to do and not worry about whether you're getting some kind of aesthetic rules correct. It's about enjoyment. So grow things in pots. You can use oversized pots, it's fine. And you need to accept that you may need to just repot it once in a while, put some new soil in and fertilize once in a while, but you can do it. This is not rocket science.
Amelanchier is a North American shrub or small tree with the most wonderful, romantic common name, snowy mespilus. You can see how it gets its name in spring when these panicles of delicate white flowers cover the bush just like snow. Its foliage on unfurling is tinged with sort of salmon pink. Then it turns green during the summer, but there's one final trick up the snowy Mespilus's sleeve, and that is to turn its leaves bright orange and red before they fall in autumn. Growing in a large pot or a tub, it really does earn its keep in your garden. Time was when the thought of growing an olive tree outside in the UK was a pipe dream, but now with our milder weather, and they do seem to be pretty tough, it's easy to grow one in a container. The important thing about planting an olive is that you make sure it's bought from a reputable source. It must have been quarantined in this country for over a year just to prove that it's disease-free. There's something very nasty called Xylella, which we're trying to keep out of this country. And by buying an olive responsibly, you can be sure that you won't be introducing that disease. When you do grow it in a container, it makes a lovely head of branches, pale grey and silvery. Keep pruning it to keep that foliage young, and you'll have a lovely container plant that just gives you a taste of the Mediterranean.
Well, of course, you're not going to get perhaps the most vibrant of olive trees. It may not grow as well as the Mediterranean, but it is true. The climate is changing, and we can grow certain things that we didn't think were possible before. But we have to be careful because one cold night can harm these trees. I've got some ficuses as well, so I've been trying one or two out in the greenhouse. Now, the greenhouse that I'm talking about, that I have, is just a green canvas on top of a frame. It's not really insulated. It's definitely not heated, so temperatures drop. But there's some fabric on the ground, and there's cover on the top. So in terms of ground frost and things like that, the ficus can do okay. But I've lost two in there because of cold weather, and one or two have survived. So it's a difficult thing at the moment. I don't think the weather has changed so dramatically. Perhaps in the south, the further south you go, perhaps on the Isle of Wight, something like that. But yeah, it's something. The olive tree is an amazing looking tree. The silvery leaves, absolutely beautiful.
Magnolias are among the most spectacular flowers of spring. Those large goblets of Magnolia soulangeana, provided they don't get frosted, look wondrous against a pale blue spring sky. But in a container, you can grow the star magnolia, which flowers even earlier. Magnolia stellata, with its thinner petals that really are starry. They're pink in the form Leonard Messel. Try that one if you don't appreciate the white. Either way, both will give you spring glory that stops passers-by in their tracks. They don't get frosted. Look, goblets of Magnolia soulangeana, provided they don't get frosted, look wondrous against a pale. Most spectacular flowers of spring. Those large goblets of Magnolia soulangeana.
Worth a look, right? It's worth a look. Let's see what we've got here. Let's have a look.
Hello,
at the screen.
darlings. Futuristic scooters, old school website.
Oh, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? That's just ridiculous. I'm going to have to get the paid version of YouTube, isn't it? Otherwise, you know, won't be able to advertise everybody, can I? No. Right, this is tropical gardening. Tropical gardening. Is that ready for the UK? I don't think so, but here we go. That's a very, very big flower. I wonder if they can be reduced. My wife had a, what was it now? Tropical tree. Just forgotten the name of it now. Very large flower. And we went to a few nurseries looking for them. And we found a few and brought them back and tried different things. And she constrains it in a small pot, and you know, and suddenly the flowers that came out were tiny, absolutely tiny for the species. And I just thought of the name. It was the hibiscus. I think it's an Hawaiian original native. There it is. There it is, right? So it's hers was smaller than my palm. And by about half, actually. I mean, quite small. I would say about that big in total, and 6 centimeters, something like that. Really, really small. And the one that I had, it was a pink. What was it? Yeah, it was a pink one. Don't remember anything else about it, but it got very, very small. And everything else we had, though, remained large. We couldn't reduce it at all. So that it does depend, doesn't it? You can be lucky. You can be lucky. So let's look for some magnolia bonsai and follow that path for a little bit. What have we got here? I want to find some stuff in the UK. Let's see. Looking for Scythia. No, we don't want to look at that. Yeah, not much UK oriented magnolia. Right, let's have a look there. This is a video here in England. The description says bought from B&Q in England for £12. Let's give it a preemptive like. Gizzy Greenfingers, subscribe. What's he going to do with it? Okay, so those internodes are quite long. He's cut it, what's it, 3 buds, I think, on that one. Yeah, definitely a good thing to do. You might get a bit of dieback on 1 or 2, but they're quite vigorous, these magnolias, so they come back strong. Cutting them back to 3 buds is very safe. 2 buds, a little less safe, but doable. Depends on, obviously, the vigor of the tree. So I'd like to see all of this just reduced, just compacted all the way down. That'll be really good. And I'm seeing a stub in the middle. You can see that little branch. That's actually quite nice. I'm not sure if you need everything else, to be honest. Depends what he's going for, I guess. Okay, so if I stop it there, okay, so here you can see we've got a straight little piece sticking out there, and another, you know, few branches. That looks like it had some dieback. That looks quite okay. And then there's this long extended branch coming out here. So there's definitely something to do. So one option here is to reduce take that off there. Yeah, take that off, and take it off there, and then you'll have definitely some taper, and this can shoot out. What you can do, just for a little bit of safety reasons, if you don't, if you like, you can cut it off over here and let this branch be sacrificial and just carry on growing out to thicken, but at least you've reduced the height there. This straight one here, I think I would take that off pretty much in most circumstances. It's too straight. You're not going to bend that very easily. I mean, unless you start cutting and doing the cut bend technique, but that's too straight. There is movement. It's a bit straight at the bottom, but there might be some flare under there. And of course, if you do get some radial roots in that, you can expand that root base and thicken that over time. So yeah, let's see what he does. Oh, he's taking the piece off in the middle. Okay. Not the end of the world. It's just a different tree now. That's interesting. That's an electrical pliers, cutters. Yeah. If it works, it works. What is that? It's that graph tape, I think. I don't really use that, to be honest. But I see a lot of them do it in the East. So there's a bit of movement there. You can see that it's got some movement. Okay, so at the moment, if you look at that tree, you can see it's just going to split into two. It looks like what do they call those things? I don't know. I never used them as a kid. I know a lot of kids, especially boys, play around with those things, don't they? What are they called? I can't remember. But anyway, it looks like one of those, doesn't it? You can put a nice elastic between the two and build one. There's too straight and there's not a lot of taper there. If you're growing a slightly larger tree and you're going to have two different trunks coming up, you can get away with that, but it's very straight. Okay, what have we got there? So you don't really have radial roots. You're going to have to sort that out over time. It's got a few fat roots and it's a bit one-sided. So there's this gap on this side here. Okay. Hope he's doing this at the right time of year, because he's opening everything up now. Opening everything up. So just, be careful when you do things like this. Oh dear. Okay. He's serious. Okay. So that's something I would resist doing. It's not something I think is generally a good idea unless you know the tree and you know how much energy it's got and what the right time of year and all sorts of things. But of course, sometimes there's really no good reason to do something like that. That's very, very dramatic. It's not to say it's going to die. It does depend on various circumstances. I mean, of course, if you need to do something like that, sure. But a tree like this where you've just got it from a garden centre, or in his case B&Q, and you know, you don't really know what you're going to do with it yet, and you've got an idea, you're going to trim it back and whatever. There's really no incredible reason to do this kind of hack on the roots. Yeah, if you look at the tree, if you look at all the characteristics of branches and taper and stuff, it doesn't have any of the characteristics that you would want to see in a very good bonsai, right? So getting all those roots off means that you're delaying the growth of the tree. Now, he's going to enjoy this, I'm sure, and if it survives this prune cut, then, you know, kudos, and keep doing it. But it's probably not the safest thing to do. I think some people get hung up on this idea that you've got to take the tree and you've got to put it in that pot, right? Okay, I've noticed that's also very, very sandy loam, very fine in a pot. So that's a tough thing as well for this tree. Okay, he's just patting it down. So just a word about that. So, okay, so this particular type of soil I'd be worried about for this tree right now, right? Especially with the root chop, and also because he's not pushing the soil into the roots. Gently pushing down is not going to get it in, especially this kind of medium, right? This substrate is very tight, compact, and it will clump, and when you push down, it's just going to clump on and maybe go in, but you can't be sure. But then again, I'm no expert because I don't really use this type of substrate for what, 10 odd years, right? I try and use something that's got a lot of aeration in it, but I still would have put in maybe some of its own that it had, but sort of bring in some pumice, and some stone, to get it in there and create some air pockets and stuff like that. You can smother the tree's roots like that. I think this is going to have a very difficult time of it. It's going to depend on where he keeps it next, and it's going to have to be in a very nice spot, and it's going to have had a lot of energy and good health before this trim, and he's going to have to get over the soil compaction and drainage that this soil is going to have. It's going to have a problem. So this looks like a sandy loam, and when was this video done? 2023. Okay. Okay, so there's possibly it was possibly an update for this tree. We can have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. How do we find this? Was it in a playlist? Just want to write a comment. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look. So magnolia. So if I type magnolia Gizzy green fingers, we'll have to see how this tree did. Maybe maybe he's got a follow-up video. Okay, but it's so good to see people getting into bonsai. I absolutely love it, and especially when you get it from B&Q, especially when you get, you know, some tree that catches your eye and you come and do something to it. Yeah, good luck, Gizzy. Good luck. Keep it up. Absolutely awesome. Right, let's go one more. This time I want to have a look at some larch trees in the garden. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look here.
Furnitureland, there's no
You're going to have to forgive the advertising for the first episode.
Free for up to 3 years.
Okay, where are we? Birkland Gardens. Birkland Gardens. Subscribe. Like the video. Well done. Keep it coming.
Hi, it's Gil. This is Birkland Gardens.
Okay,
I've
so we're in the
gathered up
States.
The larches that I have. It's not a huge amount, but I've always liked larches. They're a deciduous conifer. I think what I like about them is the color that comes out in there. These are just starting to break bud now, and the needles are short and flat, and the color is a very light green, almost kind of a chartreuse. And and then later on, I found that a lot of times they'll have a second flush. It'll come out light. Now these needles will darken up a little bit over time, and if they get a second flush of needles, they'll contrast the light and the dark, which is very, very interesting, to me. So
Depends on the species how light or
mostly
dark
grafted
the buds
cultivars.
first come out.
Some of them have a twisted aspect to them. There's one called Buried Directions, another one called Sportsman's Recurve, another one called Diana, which can be a pretty, not a large tree, but a substantial tree, and all the branching is upward and twisting, spiraling, going upward. So, and then Max and I were just looking at a tree over here. I'm going to move over to this side. So along with the needles, we're getting some cones coming out here. These are the pollen cones. And
Sorry, I just realized that my picture there had some transparency. You could see the video through my head. Looked a bit strange.
the color on them, sort of a light purple.
Oh,
lavender
look at that.
type
Isn't that
color.
beautiful?
Now these aren't going to last for a long time, so these would pollinate any regular cones, female cones that might appear on the trees.
I'd take that
So
tree.
I'm not seeing. Oh, I'm seeing another one back here, Max, on this tree right here. So that one, then these are just appeared in the last day or so. They're fairly soft, and they'll disintegrate early, after a month or so of being here. So I've got a few Dawn redwoods in here as well. We've got a really interesting larch. I'm gonna go back to where I was. Got another little one here that's a flat growing one called pulley. You have to stake it to get any height to it, and you just would hold it up like that, put a stake in the ground, tie it off with green tape or whatever, and you have something that's a good material to.
One of the nice things about larches is how compact the nodes are, right? You just have buds all over the place, so it's kind of like elm in that sort of way. So you can basically chop it anywhere and keep it up and cut and grow is really good with larch because you could just cut off it goes, shoot next shoot, cut it next shoot. So really cool, that spacing.
Tie off onto your stake with, and or you can let it grow flat on the ground, become like a ground cover. I've lost track of the name of this one. I'm thinking it might be haverback, but it might be another one very similar, kind of a flat growing, interesting, lots of branching to it, low growing, shrubby like.
That is the sort of characteristics you want, isn't it? I mean, you've got some exposed roots there, not a lot of flare, but you want this nice trunk thickness and this huge expanse, this huge set of branching, and that's absolutely, yeah, on one hand it's going to be a mission to kind of figure out what you want to do with that, but the options are really nice.
Probably becomes medium shrub like as far as size goes, so pretty interesting. So
Let me know if you want shrub like larches, ground cover larches. I have a pyramid. I have the pyramid sort of shaped ones. I have the weeping Japanese ones and European larches. A few cultivars, but never tried those.
Tones here, kind of a more of a yellow color, kind of a that one's just full of them. There's a few bald cypress in here too, and a few dawn redwoods. And as I've mentioned in other videos, one of my very favorite
larch.
Gold Rush, the dawn redwood, Metasequoia. So it's just an outstanding tree to have in the landscape.
Yeah, I've got a lot of bald cypresses. We have probably around 200 and another 500 arriving this week. This week being, where are we now? We're in October. Oh, my cousin's birthday today. So we're in the first week of October. That bald cypresses are, I'm looking forward to have them shoot up over the next few years.
So
Lovely
enjoyed
trees.
That, and thanks for joining us and talk a little bit about larches. And we'll see you on the next video.
Look at that. I must get my drone up. I must take some pics of the field. Right, where are we going? Should we do one more?
Gives you the power of AI.
Pinching a Yamadori larch. Oh, go away. I'll burden the advert so you don't have to. How about that?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Tony's Bonsai.
Tony's
If you remember a
Bonsai.
song,
Subscribe,
I think it was
like.
from the early 90s by the KLF. And it was called It's Grim Up North. That's what it seems like at the moment. It's the middle of May, and I've just been watching Nigel Saunders. He's in Canada, and it's like 34 degrees or something. It's grim, but works.
That's a nice looking larch,
It's
Tony.
not too windy today. This is a larch, and I need to remove some of the dominance from the top of the tree. So let's do some pinching.
Is that potentially a
As you can
Japanese
see,
larch?
some of these shoots are really shooting out. I'm happy to leave the bottom lower part of the tree because that tends to be the
No,
weakest
it's
part
Lecidua
to grow.
European.
But I need to get the top of this and just sort of peg it back a bit. And how I do that is just by pinching out some of these tips. It's really quite simple, this work. You just support it with your hand and pull. This is a collected tree that I collected last winter or spring 2001, and last year it was just about reviving it for the year, letting it grow, hopefully, you know, getting some good health into it, and that's what's happened. And this year, you know, it's really it's just stayed this gorgeous green colour for, it's been like this for a month now. I really, really love it. It's right up there with the maples for sort of, I don't know if it's a word, gorgeousness. That's how I'd describe it, but
I'm with you, Tony. Larches are absolutely beautiful. I love the color changes that it goes through. So some of the species that I have start off with a sort of very pale green. Some are quite bright. But there's definitely a difference between the new growth and the older growth. As the needles harden off, then you get different color. But I must say the color in autumn as it bronzes up, absolutely beautiful. It's nice to see a needle turn brown without it being thought of as dead.
it's one of my best collected trees, this. It's got quite a thick trunk. I'm just looking around, seeing what I can pinch really to, there's not too much to be done to it.
See, and do you see, just to point out, can you see the plastic container? I'm not sure what container that is. I haven't seen one before, but it looks like something you might use just for household, you know, stuff. Put some water in the sink or something like that. But you can use absolutely anything to get started with the tree. You don't have to go and get bonsai pots and stuff like that. You need to let the tree grow and be healthy. That's the first thing. So I use wooden containers, wooden pots, made up homemade pots. I bought some in as well before. I use plastic pots. If I happen to have something spare, whatever it is, right, I put it in there. The main objective is to get it growing, get it healthy. The tree is going to look good no matter what it is. That's what you're concentrating on, right? You don't have to put the tree in a spectacular pot. If you do, if you're relying on the pot to make the tree look better, well, then there's a problem. The tree will look great, and the pot will suit a good tree, you know, sure, but you got to get the tree right first. You got to get that tree looking good and healthy. It makes no difference. Ceramic pots and things.
That's pretty much it, really. As I say, I don't want to touch these lower branches. I want to put some good health into them, so I'm going to leave those. It was just really this top section that I wanted to just keep in check. Oh, there's a few around here. No, I'm going to leave those.
Can you give us spin of the tree, Tony? Spin the tree. Nice to see that.
Yeah.
From another angle.
It's developing a good shape, this. I'll give you a bit of a closer look at it now. Before I show you this tree in a little more detail, I've just noticed the wire's beginning to bite in. So I've decided to take all the wire off this tree. It was initially wired in, I think I wired it before winter, so November, December time. So it's been on for a good...
Maybe he has. Let's have a look. Does it give us a 3D view of it? I'd like to see it spinning around a little bit. Just the one view. I think this is going to be, I mean, it's already pretty, but I think it could be a really, really nice tree. The scale is quite nice. What you need now is the ramification to happen on the ends of the branches.
Kind of speeding up a lot of this footage, so what I'm saying might not even make it to the final cut. I won't be surprised. I'll probably listen back to it and think, what were you waffling on about? And just put some music over it. Or I might think some people might be interested in what I've got to say and leave it on. I don't know. Depends how I'm feeling.
We have the power. We can fast forward, move it around. So you do what you like, Tony. You do absolutely what you like to do. There's no problem there.
There we go. So looking in at the base of this tree, it's got a nice, as I say, a nice aged trunk. Got some nice, not too coarse branches. It comes up. It splits, you know, into two. I removed a large branch here that was coming up at the top.
Seems like a good choice because it's
And I've
looking
developed
good.
it into sort of this nice full canopy over the top. Well, on a fairly grim May day in northern England, I think this nice larch has brought a bit of colour and vibrancy to proceedings, which was
Beautiful.
lovely. The wire's come off, it's maintained its shape really quite nicely. I'm really happy with that. I'll just leave this to grow now for the year. Maybe do some pinching again when it sends out further growth, although I'm unsure about that. I'll just have to see what happens and come back to it when it's hopefully when it was a lovely golden colour in the autumn and show you how it's progressing. That's been a
So let's just go back there. I just want to see the close-up again. Okay, so what has this tree got in its favor? So it's got a nice little root there for anchoring. It's been planted at a good angle. The thickness of the trunk as we're moving up to the tree, it doesn't have dramatic taper, which I actually like. I like a more subtle taper. I think the bark here, the trunk at the base here, it looks like I don't know, can I say that? It looks like it's been brushed off too hard, or it's been wet recently and it's flaked a bit, or something's damaged that tree there. If it was collected, maybe it happened before Tony had it, but that still needs to age up, and that's going to take a year or so to do and to get that. I would suggest cleaning it really well and then looking after and making sure it doesn't get wet and just let it age. I think these smaller branches over here, some of them don't really have movement towards the outside, although they seem to have, you know, sort of from the start. So with this one being the exception, you can see a little bit of a movement there straight away as it comes out. This one's got a sweep to it. This one's sort of sweeping. So it might be nice to have a few little bit more dramatic angles, but as it grows out, what we want is some ramification, don't we? So there might come a time when Tony decides that ramification is the thing to do, and you'll find that he'll probably trim it back to maybe 2-3 buds on each of the branches, let it come out and start clip and grow process to start getting the different shoots angling in the different directions. You know, obviously getting more branching out, and then of course you might have to wire again to get it into better positions and so on, because you're not sure what's going to happen as it's pushing out. But a lovely tree, absolutely pleasure to look at. Best of luck, Tony. Good job. Nice tree. And if you like this sort of video, just let me know and we'll do some more. If you don't like it, you're not going to say anything and I'll get the message. Thanks for watching. I'm Jonathan. This has been Bonsai by Live. See you later.